Flash Season 3, Episode 19, The Once and Future Flash. Now, this is the perfect epitome of what this episode is. Like that just reaction, like, I gotta think about it, because half of this was really, really good. And then the other half, which is like the whole second half, was like, alright, that's not what I was expecting. And then we get to the end of the episode, and this is all over Twitter, I'm not crazy, the crazy angry guy. The ending was just like almost BS a little bit, because like, I know what I felt like. So sorry if this doesn't relate, but I kind of felt like we were in a Walking Dead moment for people who hated like the last season's finale, or the season before last, because the season just ended. It was this whole thing where it's like, this is about to happen. So there's this big lead up, and it's not like what's going to happen. It's like, this is going to happen. This is what you will see. And then you don't see that, and it pissed people off. And that's kind of how I felt about this episode. Where I'm like, okay, we're going through, it's a dark future. We get to see that Barry's going to be talking with the other members of the team. He's going to be dealing with Mirror Master and Top, or Mirror and Top. They still don't call him Mirror Master, but Mirror and Top. And I was like, okay, so we're going to get to see some of that stuff. I know he's going to deal with the team. He's going to see Kayla. So I know there's going to be some stuff where it's not just, what's the answer, who is Savitar? So we go through, he jumps into the future, and the first part of the episode I loved. I was like, alright, so, he's still in the past. He's like, I figured it out, 2024, that's where I need to go. He gets an alert that he has to basically, like, knock down Caitlin. So he runs in, he saves the guys, knocks her down, she makes an ice wall, inexplicably escapes after that. That was the first thing that bugged me, because I'm like, it's not like he was frozen. It's not like he was like, I'll get you guys out and then I'll look after her, which would have been dumb. But the way they did it was still dumb, because he ran through this super thin layer of ice, ran through the whole facility, and he's like, I ran through the whole building and she disappeared. And I'm like, how? He paused for like 5 seconds to do this, and then he ran out through the little ice wall she made. I'm like, it's ice, but it's not like she built like, 18 feet worth of ice. Like if she did that, then I'd be like, okay. They put it in there where it was like the ice literally slowed him down, because he was phasing through so much ice that it literally slowed him down. Like, it still wouldn't make that much sense, because he's still running at, such high speeds. He's still phasing through it. Clearly, he's running at super speeds. So, it's like, at least that would have been something. But it was like, she put up the little thin layer of ice, she took off, he did his couple second pause, and then he ran through, and somehow she vanished. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But I was like, alright. It's the beginning of the episode, no big deal. They're talking, we gotta find Caitlin, what are we gonna do? And he's just like, it doesn't matter what we do, because I'm going to the future. And everybody pauses, he's like, this is what I have to do, find out who Savitar is, find out how to stop him, then we can save Caitlin, we save Iris, everything's perfect. Jumps into the future, and everything is super screwed up. And I was like, man, this is what the season premiere should have been, because this is what Flashpoint is closer to, where it's just, it sucks. Like, it effing blows. Like, people are dead, and like Cisco doesn't have his powers, because of the fight that we saw, I think it was like a few episodes back, where he saw into the future of him and Caitlin fighting. She froze his freaking arms off, and they just shattered in his face, which was a very disturbing scene to actually see that, where it's, a character that we see, especially because it's not like she froze him and he died. It was like she froze him and his hands fell off, but he still managed to survive. It was like something about that makes it more visceral than the other times we've seen it where people get frozen and they just shatter. And it's like, it's a bit different. I've also recently saw that if you would watch Legends of Tomorrow. But it's like, man, that's crazy to see that where like both his arms were frozen and they just kind of crumble, and he's especially the way he was screaming, I was like, that was actually kind of crazy to watch. So I was like, man, this is what Flashpoint should have been, because that's what it's like in the comic books, or if you see the animated movie, it's a dystopian future. This is way worse than what we saw there. That was like a happy life for him, except I think Wally got hurt a little bit, and that was pretty much it. He's like, oh, this sucks, I gotta change everything. And I was like, this is what Flashpoint should have been in the beginning, minus Savitar. Like, they could have just made it a random speedster, like they did anyway, where it was the rival. Just make it where he killed, or, defeated Wally like Savitar did, and he destroyed the team, and yada, yada, yada. So I was like, alright, well, this is kind of the Flashpoint that we should have gotten early on in the season, so I was already enjoying that. Iris, of course, is gone. The team is split up. Barry is all emo style. People are putting up images of how he looks like Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man 3, which I thought was funny. But it was typical emo. I didn't even think of Spider-Man. I was just like, it's generic emo look where it's like, yeah, I just let my hair grow out and I put 3 strands in front of my face. That's the super generic I'm sad look. So I was like, alright. he does that. Barry goes into the future, instantly gets beat up by Mirror and Top, which I thought was funny. But it was cool to see their powers advance, especially in the end, where Mirror Master was like basically bending the building, or at least it looked like he was. And I was like, that was actually pretty cool. So I love seeing that. We got to see the costume, the newer version of the costume in 2024 in the end of the episode. I was like, man, maybe we'll see them switch it up. I mean, they made the suit. It's closer to the actual comic version because it was much brighter. You could definitely tell during the night sequence where it's like, oh, you look at, Future Barry when he beats Mirror Master and he's standing near the street and it's like it's super bright, and then they cut to present Barry while he's standing next to Top, and I'm like, that's just like full dark red. It's burgundy. I'm like, it's a dark burgundy suit, and his outfit is like definitely just red. And I was like, man, it'd be sweet if he just took that along and had more of the lightning going through it. It looked really cool. It was a very subtle change, but it was like, it was more than enough to notice. But I was like, man, it'd be sweet if, they just switched it up. But of course, it was a one episode thing. Maybe we'll see it by the end of the season, because it's like, I got an idea, and then, that'll be the, costume for who knows how many seasons. But I was like, all right, that was a cool way to end it and stuff. But in between there's some stuff where I'm like, I like this and I don't like this. So jumping backwards to the beginning, when Barry first gets there, like, this is a good flashpoint that we kind of should have before. He goes around kind of one by one. He meets Cisco because he knows that he's there because his powers. So he runs into Cisco, who also still has powers. I guess it's this version, but Cisco in the comic books, his vibe, his powers aren't just like, poof, I shoot you with the Force or something. Like, he could stomp on the ground and like he has powers. But he meets Cisco first, and he tries to meet himself, and that doesn't lead to any answers. Then he goes to see Wally, who is like in a comatose state almost, and we find out he had a shattered spine, which I kind of figured. I was like, he's not walking, so he broke his spine. Kind of the typical thing, like the typical emo face. The typical thing for anyone who has super speed is like, oh yeah, his legs got chopped off or he broke his spine. It's like a really generic thing. Like, that's how speedsters stop moving. It's like, we broke his spine. So of course he's in a wheelchair, and something happened. I thought he would be the answer. I thought, Barry would like use his abilities so much it would start to, because this is a thing that they don't really talk about too much in this version of the show. But Flashes can take power from other Flashes. They mentioned that, they've referenced it like a little bit, but I was like, maybe that'll do something to awaken Wally's abilities, and he'll be able to absorb that and actually like literally heal himself and kind of come out of this shock state. And I was like, maybe he'll know who it is and we'll get the answer from him. That's kind of what I was expecting. Like, he would wake up out of this mode because of the Speed Force and having the ability to take the power from, another person. So I was like, maybe that's how we get the answer. Wasn't the case, but, we get to see Joe as well. And eventually, Barry finds out that Future Cisco is actually keeping him there because Future Cisco wanted him to redo the team, or kind of bring everything back together. So eventually, we end up seeing that happen. HR was doing great. He was like the only person that had a decent life in the future. He took over CC Jitter, so he owned the coffee shop, which was no shock. But he also had his comic book, which was a hilarious reference to two characters, which they were fairly obvious. One was a bit more obvious than the other, but the character on top was definitely meant to be Shazam. Like, he was red. The only thing he was missing was the cape. So he was red, he had the lightning bolt. I'm like, that's a reference to Shazam. And I'm pretty sure the character underneath him, because I had to look at a picture on Twitter, but it was green. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a reference to, just Green Lantern in general. But I was like, that's kind of cool, because I'm like, clearly, like, there's only one character, well, there are two characters that I can think of that have, like, lightning bolts kind of on their chest. Well, there are actually a couple, but there's only two, right, that they really focus on, like, whatever his name is. Well, he was Captain Marvel Jr. in the past, but now he'd be like Shazam Jr. because of all the legal crap. But I was like, that's cool. They had Shazam and a reference to Green Lantern, so that was pretty sweet. But HR was doing great. He's reading his book and stuff, and these women are like, I want you, and he's like, oh, we should do a threesome. Do something else, and it was really a funny sequence. But the team ends up getting together, and that's where I think things started to kind of fall a little bit, because I was like, oh, this is just like the team's working together to stop the villains, and I'm like, I don't care about this. Like, this whole point of this thing, this giant epic lead up, 3 weeks of break for this show, we need to find out who Savitar is. And then I figured, okay, they're going to do their thing, like they had the epic opening, this is him being good to the present that he's in, even though he's going to go back in time and change it anyway. He still wants to help the people that he's around currently. The current versions that he's dealing with of the people that he hurt, he still wants to be good to them. Even if he does end up changing the past, he wants to do something now. So I was like, alright, Not as cool, not as epic as the first part, but still, it's interesting to see. Plus, we get to see Flash and Flash team up. That's really freaking awesome. So it was like, alright, that's good. So we go through, we get this extra answer where Future Flash says, the only reason I didn't tell you about this woman is because she didn't have the answer to stop Savitar until 4 years ago. So, that was pretty interesting because that basically meant Barry had nothing to do with defeating Savitar. And I kind of like that idea. I was like, okay, this wasn't something where he's not fast enough and he got faster. It was like, nope, he just wasn't good enough. He didn't beat Savitar, period, until this random genius person, Tracy Brand, who sounds very familiar. I've probably heard her name like a couple of times just from all the millions of DC things I've seen. But Barry couldn't do it himself. And I was like, I like that concept where it just never worked for him. It wasn't like he got better or someone told him a clue or if he figured something out. He never knew who Savitar was and he never really defeated him on his own. Somebody made a device and that's how he trapped Savitar. And I was like, that's actually kind of cool. So Barry, future Barry gives present Barry this little tiny disc of all the information. So now Barry used to take that back in time and they can basically kind of retrofit the technology to something that they have or just flat out make something because they're in Star Labs. So goes back in time. And the big thing that comes up by the end of this episode is the reveal of Caitlin meeting Savitar. They talked about it early on. Caitlin knew who Savitar was. They do the big tease. It's in the promo. It's like, oh, you're going to be surprised when you find out who it is. And so they're like, we have to find Caitlin because she knows who Savitar is. And we save her. We find this random woman. And we'll save everything. Save Iris, save Caitlin, save the world. And then we get the very end of this episode, like the final moment where we lead up to what was supposed to be this epic reveal after 3 effing weeks of promo, constantly seeing this thing where it's like, it's future Barry, he's depressed, and here's the costume, who is Savitar, all this freaking time. And we get to Caitlin walking in the snow and she sees Savitar. And Savitar is like, you know, don't worry, my child, or whatever, I'll give you your salvation, or whatever he said. I don't really care at this point because I'm just mad about the ending. And then she's like, why should I trust you? And I was already mad because I'm like, they're talking, and now I got like a minute left on this effing episode. They're not about to show who it is. And then, as soon as she says that, he kneels down, and the suit starts opening up like he's a mini-con or something coming out of a bigger Transformer. And I was like, okay, here we go. We're about to get something. We see the foot land down. It goes to her face, and I was like, I swear to God, there better be the generic, just look at her shocked face, cut to this guy, and it's just, what do you want me to do? Lightning bolt. And I was like, that is the most ridiculous freaking ending after all this time, after this crazy build-up that they've made, constantly talking about who is Savitar. Like, there was no point to shove that in our faces so much that, especially with the ending, because it was clear, it was like, the whole thing was like, alright, sure. Barry doesn't find out, but the whole point of having that sort of lead up is so we find out. Like, F him, he's gonna save it, like nobody's dying, he'll be fine. But we need to know. That's the whole point of having like this crazy lead up promo deal for 3 effing weeks. Who is Savitar? What's gonna happen? He goes to the future to get these answers. And then to actually have the ending where Caitlin is there with the person, and they literally just had to do the one extra cut for us. It literally could have been a second. Most of us have DVRs. It could have been like, it's over, and we just have to pause it and be like, oh, it's him. So instead of doing anything, they do the effing foot tease. She says, what can I do to help? And then that's it. So next week, who is Savitar? What is Savitar? Who is the real person? I know who you are now. We'll see what happens. We'll see if that actually happens next week. I don't know. I mean, I've never seen somebody tease it that hard where it's like, here's the epic reveal. This dude literally climbs out of this suit. We see his back and everything, and they show his foot hit the ground. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's just the guessing game. Who the F is it? It's somebody with dark hair. A lot of people are going to be pissed if it's Ronnie. I can't think of anyone else who has dark hair. It could just be a dark scene. They could make an easy excuse. It might not even be the actual actor. That's an easy thing to do because they do that when they don't, when they tease characters for future seasons sometimes. You see a character from the back because they didn't choose an actor. They just get a random person to just do some movements and then it's like, oh, next season. And they pick a real actor. So that could be the case. They didn't even put the actual person. So any of our guesses could be wrong. And it's like, oh, it looks like this person, but it might not even be the actual actor that's in the suit. Who knows? It could be, and we'll have to see. But honestly, based off of what they showed, he was dressed kind of like Zoom, just because he seemed to be in like one outfit. So I was like, that makes me think of Zoom. I don't think it'll be him, but it made me think of Zoom. The only, it's someone that, of course, Caitlin instantaneously trusts. At least it's Hillary Frost. So that doesn't say that much, and it could be Ronnie, but that doesn't really mean anything either. Although, honestly, it's one of them. I feel it's somebody from the future. Like, honestly, that's just who it is. It's somebody from the future, and we saw everyone from the future, so it can't be Joe. It's not going to be Wally. It's not going to be, obviously, well, it could be Barry. That's always the thing. Like, the dark version, it could be him from another Earth. It could really be anyone from another Earth, but you never know. They could literally throw in anything they want because it's the DC universe. They have the multiverse. They have time travel. They have multiverse time travel where people come from, like they did in the last episode. The magician dude, I forgot what name he had, but he was not only from the future, but he was also jumping through different dimensions as well. So this might not even be someone from Earth 1. Who the F knows? All I know is I was kind of pissed at the ending. I know a lot of people were, because it's like this whole big lead up, and they do the crazy cliffhanger ending with the greatest tease ever, where they show him get out of the outfit and everything, and they still don't bother to show us who the face is. So it really pissed me off at the end, because I'm like, this is what we were waiting for the whole time. And honestly, this is the worst way they could have done it. I wouldn't have been as mad if it just ended where they were just talking, and it was like, like, you know who I am, or, because I know so much about you, and then it just cuts, and she's like, what do you mean, or something, and he's like, I'll show you, and then it just cuts off. That would have been super close, still would have hated it, but this was worse. This was like, the guy's literally out of the suit, and they just were like, nah, we'll just show you the foot. Tune in next time, same bat time, same bat channel. So it was a real roller coaster in this episode. Epic opening, love, basically what should have been the flashpoint, thought it was great. Second part of the bad future was like, oh, let's just get the team back together and fix the future. That's not going to matter in a little bit anyway. Get, a nice lead as to how to take down Savitar. So that was nice. And then, like, somehow the greatest tease. I mean, after 3 freaking weeks, you wouldn't think they could possibly tease us any further. And then it's like, check it out, right there, and nothing. So wait until next week. Definitely made me mad at the end, but it was a decent episode. It was just what they did with the episode is really what makes me hate it so much. Like, in the future, I'll be like, I can just enjoy this because I already know the answers. It's a good episode to watch. Maybe like once the next season is going on, it's like, oh man, this is a really good episode minus that freaking tease and, not having to wait 3 effing months, or not 3 months, but 3 weeks, and then building it up as if it was about to get revealed. So that was my main issue, but there were some other ups and downs where I'm like, man, this is dark and it's really fun, and then it just got like normal campy where it's like, let's get the team back together, and as soon as they do it, I mean, I know it's HR, but it still seemed weird after everything they'd done. This is the first time they saw each other in years, and I'm like, even for HR, I thought it was a little weird that he instantly went to like Team Flash and they all do the high five, and I was like, even that seemed too campy for them. Like, even for HR's character, that seemed a little bit crazy. It's the first time they all came together after like years, and I was like, even that seems a bit far for him. And he did it in the past as well, but it was a different type of situation. They weren't just thrown together after 4 years, or 8 years, I guess, or 6 or whatever. So I was like, I kind of get it in the past. Everyone was like, all right, we're going to make this work. We got clues to beat Savitar. Even though, Caitlin aligns with him, we can stop him. We can stop her, save Iris. It was like, yeah, we got some bad news, but we got some good news. And this was just like, everybody's dead and we're just going to beat some weak people. Sweet. And I was like, eh. But anyway, because this is a long enough rant as it is. Decent episode. Just really hated the way they teased us at the end after already teasing us for 3 full weeks as if this was going to be the episode, and then doing the greatest tease they possibly could at the very end of this episode. So a little annoyed by it, to say the least. But of course, would love to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, which I could probably guess, but favorite parts and least favorite parts of this episode. And I am just going to ask, because I feel like I have to for this episode, what did you guys think about that cliffhanger? I do want to know your guesses for who Savitar is, but, I mean, it's the Flash. Like, that's just been a running theory anyway. Like, people have already been trying to figure it out. So, considering this episode added something new, which was just pure rage, I think, for most people, would love to know how you guys felt about them doing like the double cliffhanger ending, where it's like, wow, they got that close and they still tease this and they're making us wait another 7 days. So, we'd love to know what you guys thought about the cliffhanger. Would love to know your guesses for who it's going to be, especially based on what we saw. But like I said, do keep in mind the fact that they easily could have just put a random person in the suit just for the end of this episode, just in order to throw us off. They could easily do that, because it does happen in TV where it's like, just put this random person in there, and then it's like, oh, I thought that was a dude, and it comes out to be, ends up being a woman. I don't think that'll be the case. They got a little too specific. Like, obviously it's a guy. But, you know, they do stuff. They do that little switcheroo. So just be cautious of that. But we'd love to know your guesses. We'd love to know what you thought about the ending. And, of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below. Let me know. And thanks for watching.